coffee's cold and the spliff half smoked on the edge of the ledge from a bedtime toast. I was reaching for rhyme but couldn't quite make the kill. And another day waking is another day free till it's hey who said that? Wait, that was me. There's no limit to what your mind can be when you're living on Sycamore Hill.
Sycamore, Sycamore Hill. Sycamore, Sycamore Hill.
The quiet of the night is a hollow old log where the coyotes howl through a hazy fog. Such a hush, you can almost hear the color of the moonlight spill. And the breaking of day worth its weight in gold. It's a front row ticket to the matinee show. I since been convinced there's no better way to go than living on Sycamore Hill.
Sycamore, Sycamore Hill. Sycamore, Sycamore Hill. Sycamore, Sycamore Hill.
I got a gal with a window seat on the 747 up from New Orleans. If she's late, I'll still wait at the gate. Gives me such
There you are, Ric Robertson.
What's up, Jamie? How you doing?
How you doing, man? Good seeing you.
Yeah, you too. What's happening?
Look at that compound. I love it. Look at all those books, all that
Yeah.
art.
This place is nuts.
I love it, man. I love it. So, are you in Nashville right now, or are you in New Orleans?
I'm
You're
in Nashville. Yep.
Of course. So, exciting morning, Rick. Big fans of you. Gotta tell you, obviously, first saw you play opening up for Sierra Farrell a few weeks ago, Rick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we talked about this, but I don't know if you felt the energy in that room from your first notes. You could almost like see people's jaws like in the floor, man. It was like really intense and beautiful,
Yeah, I love that room. It's so cool. It's just the perfect size and people really listen, It's got the good combination of a listening room, but it also feels like an old, kind of punk club or something.
True.
People ask me how I'm doing. I tell them fine, just fine. But now and then the question echoes softly through my mind.
True. I like that. And since then, talking to musician friends and stuff like that, and everyone like loves you. Everyone loves Ric Robertson. And it's like, why were you guys hiding this from us? Why were you guys hiding this human from the world? Everyone loves you.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to get out there.
Oh man, makes me want to shake them, But obviously, to get the professional stuff out of the way, Carolina Child, what an album, came out recently, Rick, and Sweet Mother of the Cajun Food, like what an album, dude. Just honestly one of the best listens we've had all year.
Oh wow, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Okay, so you're visiting Nashville, like we established, and you're in the middle of a residency at the iconic D's Lounge.
That's right. Yep.
Is Nashville like home for you, Rick? Is this like a second home?
Right now, it's sort of turning out to be that way. I've been in New Orleans for about 6.5 years, 6 years, and I'm sort of transitioning out of that, being there all the time and looking for the next place to settle down. But at this point, traveling, and I have so many friends in Nashville, and it's sort of new for me to start doing my original music out all the time, and that's really what I'm leaning into heavily now. Sometimes that's solo, like you saw at the basement. Most of the time, actually, right now, just that's what's possible. But at D's, I put together a big band, so that's sort of what I've been playing with there. And having a residency in one place every week for a month here, a month there is a good way to do that and start getting things warmed up. So tonight is actually our third one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So when you're away from home, Rick, like when you're right now, you're in Nashville, sometimes you're playing across the country, out of your element, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Do you get thrown out of your songwriting comfort zone? Like the fact that you don't know where the good coffee is, Café du Monde or whatever you go, does it kind of like mess up like with your songwriting?
That's a good question. I find my process with songwriting now is not necessarily where I am, but it's that I've set aside the time to dedicate fully to writing. So I actually try to take myself places for a week or more with no gigs, just for the sole purpose of writing, and that starts to really stir some things up. So that could be in North Carolina or in Nashville, or it doesn't really matter where. It's more that I just find that I can't really have too much other stuff going on. I'm always writing down ideas, like notebooks and voice memos and recording little ideas, but to actually sort of stalk a song and then to pounce on it, I really have to put aside the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily matter where. Being alone really helps.
Sure. It's more like the mindset, like the being mindful, I guess.
Yeah.
What you're saying. Cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Cool. So you have such a fascinating life, Rick. I mean, I could talk to you for 17 hours, but so let me just like get to like some of the basics, that we were so interested in, right? So there were several pivotal moments in your musical life, that have shaped like the really amazing artistic soul you are. Your family's place of worship growing up, was Temple Emmanuel there in Jefferson Road in Greensboro, North
Yeah.
Carolina. And
Nice.
then, there's this band called the Sinai Mountain Ramblers that used to practice there. And then this guy comes in, Gary Silverstein, who plays the mandolin. He played a key role for you, right?
Yeah, he did. He was one of my early music teachers, and him and another guy in that band named Paul Freibush, just great musical mentors at a young age, who sort of helped me access the depths of traditional music. They were doing a lot of klezmer, which is celebratory and transcendental religious Jewish music, and then also old time string band music, which is more indigenous to North Carolina, where I grew up, and so I was sort of getting a dose of both of those things from those guys.
Yeah.
And then playing with people my own age. I mean, Paul Freibush has a son, Sammy Freibush, who if you haven't checked out, you should. He's an amazing organ player. He's playing on most of Carolina Child, actually, playing keys, and we grew up together. So yeah, that kind of, yeah. Greensboro, North Carolina was a good breeding ground to access a lot of different kinds of music.
Yeah. The cool thing about that story is that they saw you in like, as a child, they obviously like felt that you were like the real deal, that you weren't dabbling.
I don't know about that, but
Well, yeah, dude.
certainly that I was persistent. I mean, it's the same with my parents. I just gravitated toward a piano that we had in the house when I was really young every day, and they sort of followed suit and got me lessons. So
But do you think it's persistence, Rick? Because like when we hear your stuff, it's so whimsical, it's so special, and it makes us question, like, okay, if I grab my neighbor and I give him a mandolin and I give him 10,000 hours, can he become good, or are you like born with it? What do you think, Rick?
it's one of those things you can never really untangle. I think hard work pays off, and I've been working at it a long time. Still working at it. I mean, it's hard for me to have that kind of perspective on my own stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So let me tell you, you're awesome. But anyway, okay. So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So okay, so you do that. You're obviously like super talented. You're in 8th grade, and then one day comes office hours. There's this news of this new school called the Weaver Academy that's gonna
Yeah.
open in downtown.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be like first of its kind of like focused on arts.
Yeah.
How do you know this was gonna be such a special fit for you, Rick?
It's just I knew I didn't want to go to the other school. It's more what it was, man. It was like the other local public school. I knew that I wouldn't get much of a chance to play music, and I was a little bit of a outcast in certain ways. I was like an artsy kid, so
Yeah.
being at school with a bunch of other artsy freaks sounded really cool to me. And it was great. There was only 200 of us there to start, and it kind of got a little bigger, but I got to play music every day and sort of be around other young people that were gravitated toward being interested in those things.
Yeah.
So
That's
it was a good fit, and sort of followed that through all the way to ending up in Boston for music school. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like we'll get to the new music in a second, but yeah, you go to Boston, you go to Berkeley, of course,
yeah,
and then you end up pivoting to New York. But
yeah.
how did you end up in New Orleans, Rick? Obviously, you know, I mean, I think you're so synonymous with it at this point. Like to me, it's like, okay, I think Harry Connick Jr., I think Dr. John, and honestly, like you, to me, you're New Orleans. How did this special relationship start?
New Orleans was always sort of uh, in my radar growing up. Um, just that music, you know, I loved the Meters and Dr. John, and that always spoke to me a lot. And I don't think I ever totally made the connection how deep that was a New Orleans thing when I was younger.
Sure.
Certainly after probably about the time I was in Boston, but certainly when I got to New York, I started really digging in on um, more like Professor Longhair and James
Yeah.
Booker and this kind of stuff. And that got me really drawn to wanting to spend more time down there. I had visited probably 3 times before the time I decided to move down there.
Yeah.
Actually, Paul Freibush, who we mentioned earlier, who was a mentor of mine, and his son Sammy, they grew up going to New Orleans, and they were good family friends. So in their little garage that we grew up playing in, they always had a poster of Tipitinas and
Cool,
uh,
man.
shows. I just always knew about it, I guess. But
Yeah.
then more was like a logistical thing. Just living in New York was too expensive, and I just wanted to play more hours than I was playing in New York. I was sitting on the subway a lot just to get to gigs that weren't paying that much money. And New Orleans is the big easy for a reason. If you're trying to play music, play bar gigs, even busk on the street, which I did all that for, you know, the first 4 years I was there, really uh, nonstop. So,
Yeah. That's what
and
people
that,
don't see, man.
yeah, it was great. You know, it's like a little video game that's easier to conquer within the music thing. Not
Sure.
necessarily easier, and obviously there is no conquering, but it's a way to get your explore and stay
Yeah,
warm musically. You know, that's an important thing.
absolutely.
Um, I had a phase where I was playing on Bourbon Street, 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, and playing it. After that, I would skateboard down to another gig and play another 4 hours on bass or drums with a Zydeco band, and then go play a solo piano gig. And I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was all the
Very
gigs were
fulfilling. Yeah.
very fulfilling and simple. I mean, now I'm in this grind of playing my original music and trying to chase that whole industry business thing, and it's a different beast. It's you don't get to just play all the time, and that's
Right.
that's really what I want to do.
Right.
You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. There's so many hats you gotta wear now too. It's like the
Yeah,
social media part. It's like, oh, it's too much.
it's a lot.
Um,
Yeah,
it's a lot thing. Yeah, absolutely, Rick. So okay, let's pivot to the album for a second. Obviously, such a great piece. I mean, the album was produced by Dan Molad of Lucius and features
yeah.
just Wolfe and Holly Laessig and a whole bunch of other people. When you start a process, Rick, like this, and you meet with your friends and your team and your producers, do you tell them, look, guys, I know what I want, just help me make it a reality? Or I
Uh,
see you're saying no, or is it like help
it,
me out, help me figure something out here together?
it's like, yeah, or it's just like, let's all just dive in and see what happens, and it always just changes and changes. Especially this record was just a long journey of it becoming its own piece.
Yeah.
Uh, this one was interesting because the first session I did was in April of 2018. I was on tour with Rhiannon Giddens at the time,
Sure.
and we got off of a little run, and I went to Richmond, Virginia with a handful of songs. I think 5 of the ones that are on that record. And I was with Sam Freibush and drummer Nick Falk, who plays on the record.
Yeah.
And we recorded those songs, and then we recorded some funk kind of jams that didn't have words. And that was some of the stuff Dan Molad heard. I think he heard Anna Rose, which
Mm,
was just recorded at that. And he reached out to me. We knew each other from years ago. I hadn't heard from him in a long time. He got hired on to mix the record.
yeah.
And then over the course of mixing it, I was writing more songs like Carolina Child, Thinking About You, Sycamore Hill, and
So good.
we recorded Getting Over Our Love. And so all of a sudden we had like recorded more songs that teamed up with the original ones we recorded in Richmond, those 5. And then the funky stuff became this other EP called Strange World.
Right.
I don't know if you dug into that, but that's like
Yeah, absolutely. It was great.
Yeah, its own nutty universe.
Oh yeah. It was really cool, man.
And that's why I got into animation and made a little.
That's the one you did the video during the pandemic.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Absolutely.
So anyway, just to answer your question, that's how that process worked. It was like I started making the record, and the record became a whole different thing, with elements of what the initial thing was, and more songs. And Danny became the producer instead of just the mixing engineer. And I don't know. I think that's when you're making something, you kind of have to let it make you a little bit. I can't have too much control. You know, I try to just sort of connect the dots and move things into place and follow a feeling. But anytime I try to really have an idea and execute it with too much control, it ends up being shitty.
And that's true for so many things in life. Well said. Absolutely. So, okay. So thanks. You're being so good with your time. And I think you're going to play a song for us. But one more question, Rick. I mean, just about like just the current situation of music. I mean, when I was listening to your album, the whole track list is so damn good. And I thought, man, I Don't Mind is like song like number 8 or something. And there's like acts that would like kill to have one I Don't Mind their entire career. It's like, does it like, what's your, and it made me think about the current like way younger people consume music and the whole album concept. Like, what do you think about that, man? Right? Like the whole like singles and quick consumption versus like being patient for a song like that.
I have to work in the album idiom myself. But I don't think it's the right way to do it necessarily. You know, these things change, and I think, to be somewhere, I love vinyl, you know, and so that's sort of, and people are actually buying vinyl again. So I just like to think about, or it's easier for me to conceive of the records I'm putting out as basically 10 song entities.
Yeah.
You know, I can't speak for, I know that younger people putting out singles, even like minute-long songs, you know, that's a lot of what's going on now, which is cool. It's just a different art form.
Yeah.
It's no better or worse, you know. It's like,
sure.
But for me, it definitely, working in the album, working to make something that's 10 songs and then executing the recording in that way seems to be a good mode for me for now.
Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, listen, I know you have a lot on your plate. Residency, Americana Fest in Nashville. So thank you for your time. Why don't you take us away with a song, man? That'll be great.
Sure. I wonder if you can hear this weird keyboard I've got here.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
And by the way, people, if you have a chance to see Rick here play the keys in front of you at some point, check him out on tour. Like it's just fascinating. He's such a great key player, man.
I'm gonna go turn that snare drum off.
Cool.
Carolina child, keep me lush and low, made of the mountain, bound for the shore. When the winds of worry brush against my dreams, muddy creeks are yours for finding, fallen trees yours for the climbing. Where you gonna wind up, I don't know. Running with no place to go. Carolina child, at that candy store. Sweet tooth aching, coming back for more. You've had your fill now, but it won't be long. Highs are sinking lower down. The crash will keep you on the ground. You never needed wings to help you soar. Running with no place to go. And I still hear you crying. It's best you don't yet know. In time you're gonna find that everybody's in this thing alone. Running with no place to go. Singing loud when no one's home. Carolina child, keep me lush and low.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Ric Robertson. Thank you so much for starting our day that way. Wow. It's all downhill from here, man.
That's right. Hopefully we can keep it going until D's tonight.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Ric. I'm honored with your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Take care, man.